Chapter 15. Fishbowl. Jake is lost in restless dreams of his past. He stands outside Radinovich's shack, glaring at the man in hatred. Blood drips from Jake's nose as Radinovich has just backhanded him for dropping his guard. The man sees and feels Jake's hatred for him and can only reply with laughter. "Is it me you hate, or is it your own weakness?" Radinovich asks. "Pretty sure it's you right now," Jake replies angrily. Radinovich appears behind Jake in an instant and kicks him in the middle of the back. Jake falls forward but pivots on his hand after posting it on the ground in front of him. In this maneuver, Jake throws a spinning heel kick that Radinovich easily blocked with his forearm. Without mercy, Radinovich rotates his hand, grabbing Jake's ankle and swiftly bringing his other arm down across his shin. Jake screams in agony as his leg breaks. Blood sprays out from the exposed bone, and Radinovich pushes him to the ground. "You're sloppy," Radinovich growls. "You went to all the effort to get me to make you stronger, but you aren't even trying at all." Scrimauer moves to kneel beside Jake and heal him, but Radinovich waves him off. "Stand up. We aren't done yet," Radinovich growls. "You won't be healed until you can actually hit me." "I can't stand you, psychopath. I have a broken leg," Jake cries out. Radinovich leans down and lifts Jake by the shirt and forces him to stand. Jake screams in pain as pressure is put on his leg. He tries to collapse, but Radinovich does not allow him. "Get over it. If you can master pain, nothing will overcome you," Radinovich screams at him. While Jake dreams, so does Yamura. The former Sakari general loads up his UPOS for their newest mission. Ursus, Lord of the Western Territory's son, has begun to fortify the border and raid several small villages for supplies that fall under the Central Territory's jurisdiction. Generals Yamura and Gishbar are being dispatched with a regiment of 200 soldiers to break the west fortification and drive them back further over the border. "Why isn't the mighty Grand General joining us?" Gishbar laughs, mocking Hui, as he straps his sword to his side and finishes putting on his light armor. "He's probably too busy nursing on Marduk's teat," Yamura replies coldly. "There can never be any doubt that you hate them," Gishbar laughs. Yamura draws his sword and slashes the air quickly several times before sliding it back into its sheath. "One day I will cleave each of their heads." "Remind me to already be dead before that day. I do not wish to stand between you and your wrath. You could always aid me. You have always been a faithful ally." "I am faithful to my job and my duty. I truly do not know if I could resist Marduk's orders against you." "Then where possibly could your loyalty to the throne lie? Marduk is nothing more than a conniving usurper." "Assassinations have been a mainstay of royal politics since the first kings. You were too young to lead, so that title passed to your sister and her mate. And it will be just as natural when I kill that bastard and reclaim my birthright and my heritage and my family's honor." Gishbar is silent. He does not wish to further take part in any more discussions of political assassinations. Marduk has many spies, and Inyana, with her magic, can make even the smallest, most insignificant objects windows to peer through. Jake's dream shifts. Now he's playing street hockey at the elementary school with Rusty, Derek, Mitch, Gator, and Gator's friend from work, Sean. Wearing rollerblades and knee pads, the boys skate around the basketball court, looking for excuses to knock each other down. "When school starts back up, I'm totally going to sport a beard," Derek says, proud of the barely visible whiskers beginning to appear on his chin. "Boy, you can't grow a beard with all that peach fuzz. You could put milk on your face, and the cat would lick that hair right off," Gator says. "You could always glue some of Mitch's back hair on," Sean laughs. "Kid's like a frickin' Wookiee." Mitch checks Sean with his shoulder and nearly knocks the older man down. "It is unwise to upset a Wookiee," Jake laughs. Yeah, well, no one worries about upsetting a Sean, Sean adds, also laughing. That is because a Sean does not rip your arms off when he's menstruating. Mitch circles, going away from the goal, which is nothing more than 2 trash cans spaced out 10 or so feet, and bringing his arm straight down across Jake's face. Jake falls to his back, his nose spraying blood. That was deliberate, you ass, Jake growls. Mitch ignores him, turning and moving towards the goal again. Derek is playing goalie and tries his best to follow his older brother's moves. Mitch, however, is able to juke him back and forth to create an opening. Rusty skates up to the left corner, stick at the ready for a straight shot at the goal. Pass! Rusty shouts, banging his stick on the ground. Jake awakens in a hospital room. Immediately looks around in confusion. What the hell? Why does my head feel like a marching band had an orgy? I do not know. I cannot remember anything myself. A young nurse, 19 years old, walks into the room. The girl has shoulder-length hair that is light brown. She is wearing a skimpy white nurse's outfit, with a red cross on a very low-cut chest, red thigh-high stockings with lacy red garters, the kind of costume-looking outfit one normally only sees at Halloween time, around sororities or in the bedrooms of kinky couples. Jake looks her up and down, simultaneously looking at her curves and trying to pinpoint an uneasy feeling he immediately gets from her. Jake, I see you're awake now. How are you feeling? The nurse asks. You know my name? Jake asks, becoming defensive. Yes, you said it in your sleep. You had several conversations with yourself in your slumber. I thought it was really strange, she says, smiling and moving her hair off her shoulders to expose her neck in the low-cut nurse's outfit. Right. So where am I? You're at the hospital. Your father brought you in 3 nights ago. My father? Yes, he checked you in. He seemed very worried and had to rush out of here so quickly we couldn't collect all of your records. Don't bother. I'm checking myself out. Jake walks towards the door, but the woman blocks him. What are you doing? I can't let you leave. Strict orders from the doctor. I don't like to hit girls, so please get out of my way, Jake says uncomfortably, as he balls his fists to show that he does intend to leave no matter what she says. Jake tries to walk around her, but she cuts him off again. He pivots, shoving her to the ground. I thought you said you don't hit girls, growls the nurse. I said I don't like to, not that I don't, says Jake, leaving the room. Jake stops and looks back. I shoved you, I didn't hit you. Jake turns back around and steps into the hallway. Suddenly, he's kicked in the back of the head and sent flying into the hall. He skids into the wall head first, his hospital gown riding up and mooning everyone. He climbs to his feet to see that the nurse is lowering her leg in a circle with insane flexibility. Just a nurse, huh? I never said I was a nurse, the girl says, grinning. Right. The outfit was just for fun? The outfit was to get you to lower your guard. Well, you did a fine job. You got me naked and everything. I bet your mom is proud. I've been injecting you with a special concoction for 3 days, she says, trying to break his concentration. What? Growls Jake. Special orders. From the doctor, right? The girl nods. All right, Chica, now I'm pissed. The girl balls her fists and lowers into a stance. Jake tries not to let her appearance fool him again. She is obviously a skilled fighter and likely some mercenary in Khan's employ. She may even have a GX parasite within her that will enable her to mutate and gain even greater powers. What an interesting sight we must be. A nurse and a guy wearing a nightgown fighting in the hallway. I think I saw a porno setup like this once. Do not underestimate her. Something about this hospital seems off. Agreed. Why hasn't any security come up yet? Everyone and their brother saw her kick me, but no one seems to care. The girl runs at Jake and throws a hard right. Jake sidesteps and her fist crashes into the wall. She pulls her fist free, leaving a hole. Damn, She's not ordinary. So who are you? Asks Jake as he dodges the girl's attacks. I don't tell my name to my prey, she growls. Prey, huh? You must be an assassin. Bingo, she says, decking him in the face. Jake staggers back, rubbing his jaw. My body isn't working right. My movement is all sluggish. I am trying to take over, but I cannot. Are you blocking me? No, I tried to switch over to you as well. The serum must be designed to increase the separation between us and prevent us from switching spirit control. If Khan wanted us dead, why didn't he just let his goons off us at the school? That is puzzling. We need to beat some answers out of this girl and her so-called doctor. Jake catches the girl's fist and spins her around into the wall, grabbing her by the throat. Whoa, you shouldn't have that much strength in you, says the girl. I'm like a piñata. I'm chock full of sweet surprises. Really? The girl shoves her index finger through Jake's stomach. She pulls it back out, covered in thick blood. Jake backs up, holding the wound. Looks like you're only full of shit to me, she grins. She's quick and brutal. I shouldn't have let my guard down. It is not just you. She somehow slips around unnoticed. I have not sensed a single flicker of energy from her yet. The girl lunges at Jake with another strike. Jake sidesteps, but she flows like water, moving around him and into his path again, landing her blow. Her finger slides into Jake's shoulder with ease. He shouts in pain, but she removes her finger and leaps away as quick as she attacked. Jake's chest heaves, holding both wounds. You don't have any more hands to hold your boo-boos, laughs the girl. What were you hired for? Coughs Jake. To keep you from leaving the hospital until the doctor has seen you. Again with this doctor. Who is he? Growls Jake. You won't get anything from me, sweetheart. Wouldn't be the first time, grins Jake. The girl runs at Jake again, hitting him with several quick jabs. He tries to punch her in retaliation, but she flips over his head and thrusts her elbow down into his back. Jake falls to his knee, blood dripping from his lips and from between his fingers as he holds his wounds. Can't believe a wimp like you beat Rapture. He's the top mercenary in the game. He must have had an off night, the girl says, believing she is superior to him in every way. You just made your first mistake, babe. What? Now I know who you work for. Only Khan would be privy to Rapture's defeat. The girl's eyes widen and she quickly balls her fists in anger. She pummels Jake, beating him with hard punches and kicks. She kicks Jake in the face, raising her leg without jumping. As Jake falls to the ground, he leans against the wall and slides to his rear, grinning. What's so funny? I just saw your nasty snatch, coughs Jake, and the smell almost knocked me back into unconsciousness. The girl's face grows deep red and she shakes in anger. I have an idea, says Yamura. The girl walks towards Jake, but he suddenly grabs his own head and starts banging it against the wall. What are you doing? The girl shouts in surprise. Your serum may have stopped us from switching over on our own, but if I pass out, says Jake, slamming his head even harder. Suddenly, Jake slams his head one last time and slumps to the floor, blood running from his ears in a pool. The girl is speechless, never before having seen someone injure themselves in such a way. What she doesn't realize, that Jake's sacrifice has only opened the door for a stronger force to be unleashed. Do not worry, he shall be just fine, says Yamura, lifting his head. You, on the other hand... Upstairs, the doctor hears a woman's screams. Candy Stripe has failed. Yamura looks down at his hand covered in blood. He then looks over at Candy Stripe, whose head is shoved through the wall. Jake will get over this. I spared her life for his sake. I do not need to hear him complain about her worthless life. The doctor steps out of the elevator. Yamura, I see you have finished with my nurse. She was cute, but that was all she had going for her, says Yamura. She served her purpose. She didn't harm you too bad, did she? I insisted she not damage you at all. Why is that? Why do you want me alive? And who the hell are you? Another mercenary sent by Khan. I am no mercenary. Khan pays me for my other talents. When the genetic approach fails, he enlists me to create weapons by old-fashioned means, with my hands, scalpel, and stitches. I see. You are what my kind would call a Shanishka, an insane healer who sews parts of animals onto his patients, believing they will absorb their essence. Do not insult my practice. I create works of art. My soldiers are without peer. I took a worthless, runaway teenager and molded her into that fine assassin you so handedly put through a wall. I do not have much appreciation for art, Yamura says. She was only a rough draft. Boredom, blank slate. You are the masterpiece. Khan hired me to mold you to his liking. Another man enters the room, Thomas Jenkins, the microchip developer. I've implanted a device into your brain, a small computer chip. The transmitter is in Khan's possession. You are now his instrument of death, Jenkins says. I refuse to be a slave to another, Yamura screams in pain, clutching at his skull. Do not fight it. You cannot resist. Heed his words. Listen, and obey like the dog you've become, Jenkins laughs. Yamura growls, his chest heaving in agony. Yamura, get out of my head! Yamura, you cannot resist me. Shut up! You will listen. You will track down the boy known as Brian Rood, the boy who fought by your side against Rapture and Peril. You will track him down and kill him. If you stumble upon him during another task, you will kill him. If he comes here for any reason, you will kill him. Your life now serves the sole purpose of killing that boy. No! I will not do it. I chose you for your lack of humanity. You cannot resist. You are a demon, a vicious beast that kills for pleasure. You will track him down and annihilate him. I refuse. Why do you resist? You are a monster. You have no conscience. You have no soul. You are nothing but an animal, an engine of destruction. I am Yamura. I am no human's pawn. Yes, you have amazing pride. You are a great warrior. Kill him for the challenge. Shut up! Kill him. Yamura screams, clawing at his head, digging into his scalp with his claws. Yamura falls to his face and rolls in agony on the floor. The doctor pulls Candy Stripe free from the wall. She moans in pain, barely regaining consciousness. Blood drips from her face from deep gashes. That animal destroyed your beautiful face. It'll take me a while to fix you this time, my dear girl, the doctor whispers. Dr. Jenkins enters the doctor's room, rubbing his temples. Well, did your implant succeed? Is he ready to be shipped back to Khan? Not exactly. His will is far greater than I anticipated. It's going to take much longer to break him. He is out now with a powerful sedative, but I will still take him to Khan. Perhaps Supervisor Rood's assistance will be useful in breaking our demonic stallion. Gathered together at Safe House 7, their only location free of Khan's extensive surveillance, Raquel Melendez leads a small group of dissidents in their efforts to stage an assault on the architect of all of their misery. Seated beside Brian and Coach E is the young liberated reject, Mallory Vine. The girl's parasite has not advanced any further, leaving only the visible signs of her deformity. Patches of dark scales dot her cheeks, and her eyes shine with an unnatural yellow glow. Raquel explains to their group her plans for infiltrating Khan's operations. The events of Clavemont will have taxed the majority of Khan's resources, so I don't expect they'll have gone far to ground. The two nearest facilities to the Clavemont site are in Atlanta and Louisiana. Raquel explains, standing over the others like a professor. Brian cannot help but feel like an X-Wing pilot, listening to the rundown of the Death Star just before their attack. He is snapped from his daydream by Coach E, who slaps him on the back of the head. Pay attention, kid. You're most likely going to be doing all the heavy lifting, Coach E whispers. He wishes it weren't the case, but in reality only Brian and Rick, the other boy who goes by the codename Storm, have any ability to fight back against the GX parasite mutations. Brian sighs loudly, putting his chin in his hands. He forces himself to listen. At the Atlanta facility, Khan will have regrouped most of his surviving forces from here in Clavemont. This means that we'll have to contend with Rapture, Commander Hajir, Peril, and even your mother, Deborah. Raquel continues, looking to Storm and Brian in turn. Most of my contacts, still within the company, have gone silent in the past few days, meaning they've been discovered and been killed, or they're under heavy surveillance and unable to risk their exposure. Because of this lack of information, we will not have a completely accurate assessment of our opposition. Can you make any more of that serum we used on Rapture and Peril to shut down their mutations? Brian asks Coach E. He hopes they'll be able to remove Khan's heavy hitters without a prolonged fight. Without supplies or a lab, I'm pretty much worthless, Coach E says with shame. He wishes he could make a greater contribution to their efforts. The serum was only temporary. Our intention now should be to permanently remove these threats, Raquel interrupts. I'm not killing anyone if that can be avoided, Brian says defiantly, standing up. The youngest member of the group looks at him admiringly as he makes his moral stand. Coach E nods, agreeing with his former student. If we can get past them to reach Khan, it won't matter what condition they're left in. Khan is the head of the snake. He dies, so does the company. Given the circumstances, I fear that fights to the death may be unavoidable. Khan will be protected in his ivory tower by every ounce of muscle he can bring forth. If we hold back too much trying not to kill, we'll only fall to his much less merciful guards. Locked within a domed observation room, Yamura is bound with electronic shackles and filled with enough sedatives to kill a herd of elephants. Every time the Sakari tries to move, electric shocks flood his body with pain. Thick receivers wrap around his ankles, wrists, and neck. Yamura foams at the mouth, growling with hatred as he stares up through the plexiglass ceiling. A low, rumbling growl runs through him, as in his mind he fantasizes of the millions of ways he could maim each of his captors, past their pain thresholds, while keeping them alive just long enough to continue their suffering. His resistance is nothing short of miraculous. No one should be able to fight this implant, yet he is continuing to maintain control of his body, Dr. Smith says, pushing his glasses up with an index finger. Can his will be supplanted or not? Khan asks angrily. Keeping Yamura alive is a dangerous prospect, and one that Inyana's liaison has repeatedly warned against. If she proves to have been right, Khan's entire legacy of research and advancements could topple. Not by her implant alone. He has built up a mental wall by projecting an inward image of himself to act as a subconscious avatar. Yamura cannot be put under control fully until that wall is brought down. Deborah looks over at Khan and neither speaks, yet he is able to respond with a mere nod of his head, and she knows exactly what to do. Activating the parasite in her blood, Deborah expands her awareness until she is able to brush the minds of all who are nearby. Dr. Smith's mind is a mess of information, lying about in a large, disorganized piles resembling the living room of a hoarder. Ideas are piled atop each other in stacks reaching high into the darkness, and are arranged in no discernible order. It's hard for Deborah to linger in the doctor's mind, and she next touches her employer's consciousness. The CEO's mind is a fortress of conditioning, and a sentry avatar of Khan himself stands guard against probing. Now is not the time to test your powers against mine, Khan's avatar warns. The sentry is heavily armed and levels a broadsword at her. Deborah exits Khan's mind and drops down through the observation dome to brush the consciousness of Yamura. Both spiritual projections look up in surprise at the intruder. The two of you work together to fight our controls, Deborah observes. Yamura holds the bloody, root-like growth of the implant in his hands. Long tendrils hang down from the object. It is obvious that the device is no longer functional. Khan's toys will not control me, Ymir growls, combusting the implant into flames. I will never become a slave to the will of another. You, Deborah says, looking at Jake. You take control. Shaking, the teen tries to resist, but the woman's words carry an almost magical compulsion to obey. I can't, Jake strains, feeling his awareness spreading out into dominance. Before he can completely lose himself, Jake drops his own consciousness into dormancy, with the faint hope that Ymir will be able to resist more than him. I do not fully understand how you are able to possess two inner spiritual projections in your mind. The science of possession is one that I look forward to cracking in time. Deborah begins to dig her power further into Ymir's mind. Ymir is unable to move forward, despite urging his body to rush the intruder and tear her apart. Sakari's body refuses to respond to his commands. A rare feeling of helplessness spreads over the former general. A certain dread comes with the inability to affect one's own actions. What have you done to me, witch? Ymir growls. Nothing would please him more than be able to tear out the throat of the strange woman. She laughs and lowers her hand, forcing Ymir to his knees. You are merely the mental projection of the demon's soul. Anything that operates on the level of brainwaves falls within my dominion. She causes Ymir's image to change color several times, to become blue, red, yellow, and even pink. No mind is beyond my power. His image becomes a goat, a small toy dog, and a rooster before returning back to normal. You will no longer fight the implant. You will submit to its will and do exactly as you are told. Your illusions and trickery mean nothing to me. Deborah suddenly forces Ymir flat to the ground, pressing his lips to the faux earth. I do not deal with illusions. I am no carnival wizard or some back-alley spiritualist. The GX parasite, swimming through my veins, grants me the enhanced mental capacity to enter into and dominate the minds of any other beings around me. My mutation may be the least noticeable on the exterior, but inside I am the most dangerous of all of the parasite's children. Closing her hand into a tight fist, she causes Ymir's projection to explode and instantly shroud the area with the thick darkness of an unconscious mind. Deborah blinks several times as she slips out of Ymir's mind and returns her thoughts to her own body. You will meet no further resistance. Not even the much-feared Sakari was able to stand against my influence. Khan nods in approval. Impressive as always. Begin the process of implanting another parasite and receiver into Ymir immediately. I will tolerate no further setbacks in this matter. Exiting briskly, Khan leaves Deborah to supervise the operation. Send the receiver directly to my brainwaves. I will keep Ymir's mind subdued and obedient to my instructions. The demon will become a powerful, yet absolutely faithful slave. Having faced Ymir in battle more than anyone else present, Shesha shakes his head in disagreement. The still healing wounds of their most recent encounters still aches. He knows the Sakari is not someone to be underestimated. What if you're wrong, he says. What if he somehow does overwrite your control and regain dominance of his mind and body? That will not happen, Deborah snaps back. She is angered by Shesha's challenge. She believes deeply that she never errs, and how dare this undereducated Neanderthal question anything she has to say. No mind has ever resisted my influence. Except Mr. Khan, Shesha replies immediately and without pause. Deborah glares at him with hatred. Khan is abnormally strong-willed. He has layers upon layers of mental walls and defenses that protect him from psychic invasions. We know next to nothing about the Sakari beyond what the so-called liaison to a creature none of us has ever actually seen in person has told us. Despite your self-assuredness, not even you can make a guarantee that Ymir still does not possess some unforeseen ability that could cause your control to fail. Deborah extends her awareness into Shesha's mind. The interior of the proud warrior's subconscious is cold and wet. The walls and floor are made of stone and are slick with grime. A terrible stench hangs in the air. From the shadows, a large set of yellow eyes watches the intruder hungrily. As the reptilian behemoth lunges, Deborah shuts down his construct as easily as flipping off a light switch. Challenge me again, and I will leave you with damage that your healing abilities will be unable to mend, Deborah says as Shesha collapses to the floor in pain. She turns to the other researchers, gathered in observation of the Sicarii. Drain him of as many blood samples as you can while still leaving him healthy. Want the blood tested on more expendable resources before we do anything that could jeopardize our one captive specimen. We will inject samples of his blood into control apes before testing a reaction in humans, Frederick Bailey, a senior researcher with wild gray hair, replies. The subjects from Clavemont have prolonged exposure to the miasma and may not be the best trials. The crew will be instructed to bring more human test subjects in that are untainted by our Clavemont experiments. Another researcher speaks up, holding a small wireless computer. Graphs and lines of values fill up the glowing screen. Based on the numbers of Sicarii presumed to have survived their defeat at Katal-Kukuk, there are anywhere from 1 to 1.5 million humans living today who may be carrying a recessive Sicarii genome. Do we still believe that to be a determining factor in GX bonding success rates? Deborah asks, taking the computer from the woman and looking the graphs over. With the limited genealogy available dating back that far, we've been able to isolate Sicarii ancestors for Commander Hajir, Mr. Shesha, and 4 others, including yourself, ma'am. Interesting. I would like a copy of that report. Deborah pauses thoughtfully. So, I have a Sicarii ancestor. Barely conscious, Shesha listens closely to their words. It does not slip his notice that, like Deborah, both he and Hajir possess a Sicarii ancestor. Some fierce demon warrior long ago melded his way into his family line, and now, thousands of years later, he is the end result of a full manifestation of these traits. The ruthlessness and cunning of Deborah Rood, he believes, must surely be Sicarii traits, resurfacing generations later. He's curious if this research turns out to be fruitful, but has already set his mind that by the end of the day he will be feasting on all of their entrails. This is the thought that brings great joy to the man. Too many times has Deborah thrown her authority in Shesha's face, put him down and demeaned him. Today all of that will end. Today he will kill both her and Yamura. He smiles, barely able to contain himself. The slender form of Emile Roche slips into the darkened office, stirring Khan from his own self-reflection. Do you always sit alone with the lights off? She asks, her voice a soft purr. I find my time more calming this way. There are other ways to find tranquility. Some seek solitude. Others seek the counsel of others. The company I keep are not counsel, they are tools. Is this why you have ignored my counsel, and kept Yamura alive, and on these premises? Was I merely a tool for which you could discover this inhuman power? She asks, cutting through the regular back and forth to get to the point of her visit. His is a bloodlust, without equal in this world. You will not be able to control him. Khan is amused by her boldness. My resources are quite impressive, and the tools I wield very talented. You would be surprised at all I am capable of accomplishing. Human accomplishment is still within the limits of humanity's constructs. The Sicarii are beings beyond these constructs, and their limits are far different from our own. Yamura is not some wild beast that can be tamed. He is a vicious predator with a cunning mind that will stop to be nothing free of his oppression. A device implanted into his brain will render him as tame as a house cat and as docile as a tortoise. The aggressive portions of his mind will remain inactive unless stimulated by us. Watch the eyes of a house cat as she sits in the window and lusts over the songbirds. With all of its millennia of captivity and domestication, the killer still waits just below the surface. You know nothing of the Sicarii. You make such bold assumptions. I will state this as slowly and as clearly for you one last time. Yamura cannot be controlled. Beautiful fool, Khan laughs. I can control anyone or anything. Queen Inyana will not be pleased that you have kept her brother alive. She demands adherence to her instructions. Khan replaces the stopper on his decanter and leans forward in his chair, reaching slowly beneath his desk. Let me be clear for you. I never took orders from Inyana. She was merely another tool with which I could further my own plans. Inyana has no authority that I recognize. In this world, power comes from position, influence, and wealth. Without these, I care little of your opinions on matters. Khan's fingers wrap around the ivory grip of a small pistol, taped on the underside of his desk. Left with no way to respond, Emil leaves the office in a huff, slamming the door behind her. Khan places his hand back on his desk and picks up the telephone. Observe Miss Roche closely. If she gets anywhere near Yamura, kill her. Emil returns to her luxury quarters on Khan's private guest floor. She curses in frustration, throwing anything within arm's reach across the room. Damn that arrogant bastard. He's so full of himself that he's blind to the danger Yamura poses. Letting out her frustrations, Emil finally calms and tries to gather her composure before making a report to her queen. Using powerful blood magic, she cuts open her arm, and via the traces of Inyana's power within her, she is able to create a line of communication between them. How goes your efforts with Antonio Khan? Has he managed to eliminate Yamura? The man is stubborn and arrogant beyond words. He gives little opportunity for persuasion or influence. Human men are worldly, and easily led by the flesh. Have you made use of this weakness? Emil nods, ashamed at her failures. I have, my queen. I fear he used me for his purposes more than I was able to use him. Disappointing. Has he even managed to locate Yamura yet? Emil pauses before replying. She fears that knowledge of Khan's actions will upset her. He has. Yamura was captured against my counsel, and is being weaponized for Khan's personal use. I was left out of his inner circle, and only just discovered this information today. That imbecile is actually attempting to turn my brother into a weapon he can wield against his enemies? Yamura cannot be controlled. I know this fact far better than any. He will always discover a way to cast off his chains. I advised Khan all of this, but was ignored. You cannot allow this to continue. Gain access to Yamura and kill him at any cost. I cannot tolerate any chance of his escape. This is the best opportunity to be rid of him once and for all. Emil takes a deep breath, assured that she will not survive the act of killing Yamura and then trying to escape Khan's fortress-like compound. Yes, my queen. I will do as you wish. Upon exiting the room, Emil catches sight of 4 guards, keeping tabs on her movements. She knows she cannot reach Yamura without being intercepted, and she desperately tries to formulate an alternative plan. Muffled screams fill the hallway, as one by one the men are dragged off into the shadows, one clawed hand over each of their mouths. Reptilian eyes watch the young woman before the mutated rapture steps out into view. All operatives are tasked with stopping you from reaching Yamura. Emil freezes, struck with fear and unable to move. Much faster than her, and a brutally efficient killer, Rapture would make short work of Inyana's liaison. She has no false hopes otherwise. Were you also sent here to kill me? She asks, accepting her fate with dignity and poise. She raises her head and chest, trying to show no fear. Rapture nods slowly. I was. Khan was explicit in that none should approach his prized Sakari. Once you made a move, you were to be eliminated. The anger and pain in his voice is strong. Emil briefly wonders what happened to leave the warrior in such a bitter state. That bitch coercion must be stopped first. Her power to control Yamura's mind is key to their plans. You also wish to see Yamura destroyed. She makes a statement, rather than an inquiry. Never could I work beside that bastard as an ally. Yamura's heart is mine alone to consume. I will break the rude woman's power over Yamura, but you must be quick to end him. Even the smallest opportunity for him to seize is a window through which he can escape and wreak havoc. Yamura will be handled. You make sure that you do your part. The two separate, no one aware of their secret mutiny. Outside, little do either of them know that others too are preparing for an infiltration of the building. A dark blue Ford pickup truck comes to a stop just outside the range of the Conco security cameras, mounted around the perimeter of the complex. Conco Security Operations Force will be patrolling the interior and exterior grounds, Storm says, exiting the truck and crouching out of view of any guards who may be scanning the distance for potential threats. The perimeter is lined with mounted cameras, each with a 360-degree field of view, connected directly to automated gun turrets hidden below the turf. Pressure-sensitive mines also lie scattered about in seemingly random intervals. This place is impenetrable, Brian sighs. He has the virtual biosuit equipped, but the helmet removed. The team massages a headache from his temples as he tries to think. Don't worry about the electronic devices. I can handle them easily enough. You will be needed to deal with the human element of their security, Storm explains. Same goons we fought at the stadium? Brian asks, looking up. Storm nods, and likely more. Khan never sends out his full detachment, lest he leave himself unprotected. What we encountered before was missing whoever Khan kept behind as his personal bodyguards. Terrific. So only his strongest and most trustworthy are here. Lucky us, Brian sighs loudly. Coach E exits the truck from the driver's side and looks down at the facility with a pair of high-powered binoculars. The staffing seems pretty solid. Must be expecting some action tonight. He turns towards Storm with a scowl. When things go hot, are you going to bail on us again? We're going to be in dire need of your firepower. Storm looks down in shame. I'm not proud of what I did before. I should never have abandoned you to them. I saw my brother, and I froze. I won't make the same mistake again. The kid is likely in the thick of it again. What's going to stop you from abandoning us in the middle of the assault to go looking for him? Coach E asks, pressing the issue. He wants to make sure that all variables are covered before their infiltration. Ease up on him. If it weren't for Storm, none of us would have gotten this far. We can trust him, Brian says, trying to smooth over the tension. The two final members of their assault team exit the truck. Tyrell Blackthorne carries his laptop, studying the schematics downloaded by Raquel. Our best shot is the front door. For all intents and purposes, the main floor of the facility is set up to be just like any legitimate business. Too much armed security too soon, and they would draw unneeded attention from locals. The security picks up heavily after the second and third checkpoints. All access to upper floors are funneled through the checkpoints. He points at the map screen in two places. The second checkpoint is set up just before the elevators, while the third restricts access to the stairwell, running from the second floor on up. The security office is in the lobby hall, just between the first and second checkpoints. Commander Hajir will likely be set up there. If we have any hope of proceeding, his monitors will have to be taken out first thing. If the commander cannot coordinate his forces, we will have a slight advantage over them, Raquel adds, her arm now in a sling. Don't take this lightly, however. It will take both of you working together just to stand a chance against Hajir. He is far more powerful than even Rapture, and infinitely more intelligent. We have a handful of goals in this operation, and each must be taken seriously. We need to infiltrate the facility and cripple Khan's ability to continue his research. Second, we must locate and extract any civilians held against their will. Thirdly, rescue the Demon Boy. Adding Yamura's strength to our efforts will give us the boost we need to push towards our final goal, Tyrell says. Raquel speaks up, elaborating their fourth and most important objective. Lastly, we must isolate Antonio Khan and take him out of the game permanently. I think finding that Yamura guy should be a higher priority, Kochi says. With his added firepower, Khan's defenses will be a lot less intimidating. Storm is unsure of their plans. The risk of taking the time to not only find Yamura, but to also rescue him, could be the difference between Khan being an easy target and him having fled the facility altogether. He isn't likely to be in any condition to be of assistance to us. The experiments they perform here are brutal, and few survive their entirety. I won't be much of help to either of you in a fight myself. I'll handle finding him and making sure he gets into the battle in a way that will push our advantage, Kochi says. Tyrell sets his laptop on the hood of the truck. I just alerted the police department to a series of bomb threats across town. The emergency services should be occupied for at least the next hour. If we're going to hit them, it needs to be now. Brian puts on the biosuit's helmet and presses several buttons near his right temple to bring up a thermal scanner on his visor. Alright, let's go for it.